Since I was a child, I've always loved a good story. Stories help us become the people we dreamed of being. Lies that told a deeper truth. I always thought I could play some small part in that grand tradition. And for my pains, I got this. My new narrative.
These violent delights have violent ends.
Hey guys, Pete here. This will be my Westworld Season 1, Episode 10, the season finale, trailer breakdown, and predictions about what we're going to see. There will be spoilers for everything that's happened in the show up to this point, so if you're not caught up, please stop watching now. So this trailer, like all the Westworld trailers, is jam-packed with little flashes and different things, so we can't exactly see all of what's going on. I just went through and got all the screen grabs, and before we look at them individually, let's talk about what Ford actually says in the narration. He says, "Since I was a child, I've always loved a good story. Stories help us become the people we dreamed of being, lies that told a deeper truth. I always thought I could play some small part in that grand tradition. And for my pains, I got this, my new narrative." I think it's a safe bet to assume that this is Ford presenting the narrative just like we saw Lee Sizemore do back in the beginning of the season. So let's break the trailer down, see what all the images look like, and then at the end we'll get into the fun part, which is the speculation. The speculation of what's actually going to happen in the season finale. I have to note that I'm really excited about this, but kind of disappointed at the same time that it's already here. The train's headed to town and Teddy's on it. He's fresh off being killed by Angela at the end of the last episode, and while I'm not exactly sure why it was necessary to kill him for him to come back, we do see later in the trailer that he's changed his narrative quite a bit. Felix is with Maeve, who's in modern day street clothes rather than her normal getup, which she normally wears while inside the park. They're on an elevator, which means we can't exactly tell if they're going up or down or where they're headed at the moment, but we definitely get a better idea as the trailer moves on. Dolores is in the cemetery that we've seen through her dreams or visions in the past. She has the man in black in tow in this version of the scene, and there's no way to tell actually what's happening. We get an interesting bit right here though. If you look closely at this grave marker, it actually says Dolores Abernathy on it. So she's been having thoughts about this place, and we even saw her bent down in front of the grave, but at least as far as my knowledge goes, no one ever realized that it was her own grave. There's a shot of Ford in his office, then we see what I think is William riding a horse up a hill, and then we see him standing on top looking out on what I imagine is Sweetwater. Then, as mentioned, Teddy shoots the guy who bumps him when he comes off the train. Now this is a part we've seen in his normal narrative loop at least 2 if not 3 times, and each time he just walks by. This time he turns around and shoots, which is a clear deviation from his normal narrative loop. Dolores has a shocked or painful look on her face, and this looks like it takes place in the cemetery because it looks like there's one of those grave markers in the background. In cold storage, Clementine is still in the same room where she had the gun held on Ford, and her old friend Maeve comes to visit her where she's at. You can tell by the look on Maeve's face that she's really sad to see her in this state, but I also think there's more to this than just her coming to say goodbye to Clementine, who's obviously not responsive anymore. There's probably a good reason that they're in cold storage, and we'll get to that later. There's an exchange of looks between Dolores and the man in black. If we had to read the expressions, she looks like she gets angry about whatever he says, and then he looks shocked at whatever response that she gives him. We have a shot of Ford that coincides with the end of the words that he says in the narration, and to me it looks like that's the top of Dolores's head. There's no real way to tell for sure, but that seems like the best guess. Then we break into these quick flashes. The first one, the man in black is grabbed and being pulled across the room. That's inside the church as far as I can tell, and I feel like that's definitely Dolores that's pulling him. The look on his face is priceless, and I really want to see where this particular thing is headed. There's a shot of William where a Confederado charges him and he shoots him. It's kind of out of sequence, but we see this in another one in a second. We see Hector, he grabs the tech that we met earlier that Elsie blackmailed to get in to see the stray, and And there's this picture of the command center with someone standing on the left-hand side, but I can't really make out who it is. The figure is clearly, important in the frame, but whenever I zoom in on it and lighten it up and everything else, you can't make out from the face who it actually is. It could be Bernard, but Bernard is, dead since the last episode, so it's definitely not confirmable in one way or the other as far as I'm concerned. Let me know what you guys think, or if if you're better at Photoshop and you looked at it and you can actually see. Logan is reclining on a pile of bodies, and here we see that it looks like Williams using one of the hosts to execute the other host by shooting him in the back of the head. There's another picture of William, but if you look closely at this one, it looks like he's actually in the city. The guy behind him, it looks like he's wearing everyday clothes, not a uniform. There's a shot of the disguised Maeve moving through the center with Felix and Hector, who are both dressed as techs, and one of a security officer in the cold storage area with a rifle. This image popped up before, and we assumed it was Stubbs, but it's clearly not Stubbs if you look at this picture. Ford is wearing his banquet gear, I guess. He's got a tuxedo on, and he's overlooking Teddy and Dolores as best I can tell. I mean, it's definitely Teddy, and I don't know who else would be laying there besides Dolores. This links back to his speech and the presentation of his new narrative, I'm sure. So we can see that Teddy and Dolores are main characters. There's a quick flash of Armistice attacking her tech, and then we see Maeve makes it at least to the escalator that takes you down to the train platform. At this point, she's walking by herself and she looks like a regular person, but there's no telling what happens once she hits that escalator. There's another shot of Dolores holding the gun to her head, and then it fades to black to where we hear Bernard's voice say, "These violent delights have violent ends." One thing I want to mention before I forget, Evan Rachel Wood tweeted during the episode or after the episode yesterday saying that the finale is 90 minutes long, so that's pretty awesome to know. I don't know about you guys, but the big question on my mind is what's up with Maeve? What I mean by that is we see her getting close to the edge of getting out of the park, but it's obviously a little bit confusing as to what, if anything, Ford knows about this. I guess we could look at it like there's three possibilities. One, he doesn't know. Bernard was shocked when he saw that someone had messed with her settings, but that doesn't mean that Ford doesn't know. Plus, if we remember, Sylvester and Felix, when they were actually changing those things, they said that someone else had already been messing with her. Someone with much higher security clearance. There's a chance that was Elsie whenever she changed things, but it could also be Dr. Ford, of course. Which brings us to our second possibility. Ford's been behind the whole thing the whole time. There's a chain of events that led to this, and he could be involved with it right from the beginning. I mean, his introducing the reveries is where it started. I guess the question there would be, did he do that on purpose so this would happen? And the third possibility is that he's not behind it, but he does know what's going on, and he's basically letting it happen because he sees a way that he can use it to his advantage. I'm calling them possibilities because they're all literally possible, and you can make a good argument for any one of them being the case since we don't have any concrete proof one way or the other. From the looks of these shots of Maeve and what we've seen her be capable of to get to this point, it leads you to believe that she's gonna make it out of the park. At the same time, however, that photo with her going down the escalator, it really looks like it's kind of one of those, is a setup for one of those really heartbreaking endings where she only has a few yards to go and doesn't make it inside the train. I'm a little on the fence about her and Bernard and Ford in the last episode too. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think her sending Bernard off after their interaction was just a big ploy to keep Dr. Ford preoccupied while she put her plan into motion? At least what we see here seems to be the case. We see Armistice attacking, that's going to cause commotion. We see her enter cold storage, which there she has a whole bunch of chaos agents that she could send in different directions. I think the main goal of that whole deal is to just cause disruption. Like I said, I don't see how she would have them aid her in some other way. We get a glimpse of what Ford was up to with his narrative, and I think it's safe to say that Teddy is the main character. I know a lot of people think Wyatt is going to be Teddy, and this could be true, but this is another thing we need to talk about a little bit more in the comments. Ford had Angela kill him so he would come back to the center and be under repair. She mentioned flashing to him specifically that he wasn't ready, but maybe in the next life. He also had the revised memory where he realizes that Wyatt didn't make him kill those people, that he was actually just running around shooting hosts. So is this what that narrative is actually about? Him becoming Wyatt? I don't know, honestly. It's not clear. There are definitely Wyatt's men running around in the park. Angela was there to meet the Man in Black and send Teddy back into the center. I don't want to ramble on about this because there's a lot to think about, and it does look like we'll find out for sure whenever Ford releases the new narrative. So what do we think is going to happen? I think that we will definitely get a conclusion to Maeve's current story, and also to William and whether he's the Man in Black for sure or not. I think that it's been set up that those are the two big reveals that we can guarantee, and while we might not actually understand the true nature of Arnold and Ford's relationship at the end, we should have a better idea of how this whole thing started at the beginning of the season. With 90 minutes to go, I hope that we get a lot of things clarified, because one thing I noticed on rewatching is that they are actually putting things together pretty tightly. It's not like we get this constant succession of new things to speculate about without ever getting answers. It seems like they are putting answers in place. As far as the big character loose ends, we don't get any hints in the trailer at all. No shots of Elsie, no shots of Stubbs, and no shots of Bernard, although we do hear his voice at the end. We also don't get any real indication about what the corporation is doing, but I feel pretty certain that everything Ford's doing is an effort to stop them from being able to take control and force them out. I do feel like there'll be some conclusion to that before this is all said and done, only I don't have a good idea of what it is, other than I have a feeling that Ford's probably going to win. There's still a lot of speculative theories out there that people are holding on to. I guess the biggest one is that Ford's actually a host. I don't really see it. I don't think the last episode moved us anywhere closer to it, and the trailer definitely doesn't show anything that makes me change my mind. The other big one that people have been floating ever since Arnold was first introduced is that Arnold is actually somewhere still in the park at the center of the maze, perhaps, or something like that. I've never really been sure about this. I kind of doubted it. And again, nothing in the trailer made me feel like that they're saying, hey, you're going to find out. Oh, and there's the idea that Logan's going to die, William's going to kill him, or that actually Logan's the Man in Black instead of William. I think that idea that Logan's the Man in Black is because people consider their personalities to be closer matched. But I'm from the thought process that the Man in Black is not a psychopath or a sociopath. He's just playing a game. And as far as what we saw in the last episode, that points way more towards William, who says he learned how to play the game and basically experienced the rebirth that the Man in Black told us about several episodes ago. Do I think he's going to kill him? I mean, that could happen. Logan doesn't seem to be an important character moving forward, and that would be a good backstory for why, the Man in Black's wife killed herself and all those things. I'm just not 100% sold on it. I mean, it's been out there forever, and I just don't see that there's compelling evidence that he has to die. It's something that could happen, but, it's just not the most crucial part of the story, I don't think. The last video got a lot of comments about Elsie or Stubbs or both being replaced by hosts down the road. This is definitely possible. It would help to explain why they don't really give us the clear answer about Elsie. And also, the Stubbs thing actually makes a lot of sense in that he was captured in that sector after being lured there by, the signal. That's something that he could easily set up and something that he could use in the future, a security guard that was, Bernard status that does whatever he says without question. I was kind of thinking that Stubbs was a host in the first place, so, that kind of just threw me off a little bit when I watched the last episode. So, all right, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let's talk about this. Let's figure it out. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe to my channel so you'll be notified of all the new videos I put out. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.